Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so right now, what we are taking a look at, we are in Unit 3, Lesson 5, and today we are looking at bubbles 7, 8, and 9. So I am going to start with bubble 7, letter A. Now, B, C, and D are just debugs, which means that basically for B, C, and D, the code is for the most part there, but it's not running properly. So again, you'll have to get those variables to work. So what we are going to do is we're going to do A, where we are going to be changing a variable value. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one. And of course, my computer is going to take forever to get there because it wouldn't be class unless it did. All right, cool. So it says, this program uses the variable circle size to control the width and height of a circle. If you make the circle big enough, it will fill the entire screen, like the picture on the right. Do this. Change the value assigned to circle size so that the circle fills the entire screen. All right, so I am going to show my grid because I always like to show my grid. And I'm going to go ahead and hit run and see what happens. All right, so my circle size, so it's I can see that this variable has been created. The variable circle size, and again, I'm just going to get rid of my instructions so I have a little more room to work with. All right. So my circle size variable has been created, and it says circle size gets 400. So when I look at where it's being used in the program, my ellipse or my circle has a position of 200, 200. So we know that that means that it's being rendered, the center of the circle is the center of this grid. And then my height and width are circle size. So they're going to be 400 apiece. However, we want this to fill the entire screen. We want it all to be read from the circle size. So give me a number that might be able to do that.
600.
Let's try 600. Okay, cool. Let's try that. All right, so I've changed my variable size to 600. Now notice I only had to make one change. I did not have to change it down here. I don't have to change it there. I make one change. And notice what happens. It completely fills up. So again, changing this one thing on the variable changes everywhere where it says circle size. So now the height is 600, the width is 600, and it fills up the entire screen. All right, issues or questions. And please don't put anything in the chat. I cannot see the chat when I am sharing my screen like this. You'll have to unmute to speak to me. All right, cool. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anything, so we can go ahead and hit finish on this. All right, so of course, you will have to go through and debug B, C, and D. Now, so there is that, and it tells you debug the variable names. Remember, there are 3 rules for naming variables. Rule number 1, you cannot have the variable name starting with a number. Rule number 2, you cannot have any spaces in a variable's name. Rule number 3, if you spell a variable a certain way when you create the variable, that's the exact same spelling that you have to use every time you're trying to call up that variable in terms of spacing and spelling and everything in the program. Okay? Awesome. So there is that. When we go into number 8, you will need to do all the A, B, C, and D on 7. When we go into number 8, all right, so it says this program currently draws a face, but the eyes are 2 different sizes, right? Change the program to use the variable for the size of both eyes. and run the code to make sure both I's are drawn at the same time. So run the program to see how it works. We did. Change this program to use the I size variable. So you'll have to figure this out. This is the one that I'll be looking at fairly closely. Again, the variable is already created for you. You just have to figure out where in the program would it make sense for you to put the word I size. Now, I'm going to say this in terms of spacing, in terms of spelling. I personally find it much easier when I'm using variables to literally just come up here and do a copy and then paste it wherever I want to put it in the program, just because that way I'm guaranteed it's going to be spelled right. Because I don't know about you guys, but spelling, not exactly my forte. Plus, I kind of am awful at typing too. I mean, like everybody has their strengths. Spelling and typing, not mine. So I always like to use a copy and paste when I'm using variables because I sometimes will mess up by spelling things wrong. But again, you'll have to decide where in this program would be appropriate to use this I size variable. So that is what I will be looking at there. Now, when we get to number 9, again, these are opportunities to use different types of variables. Free play is whatever, but you have A, B, or C in terms of a choice grid. Of the 3, A, B, C, you may complete all 3, extra credit, but you are only required to do 1. All right? Any questions on what we are doing for the remainder of today? We are basically just finishing up lesson 5 and completing bubble 7 completely, A, B, C, D. Bubble 8, where you have to fix the variable on the eyeballs. And on bubble number 9, because it's the challenge, again, you can choose to do all of your bubbles for extra credit, but you are only required to do 1.